Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I get a lot of questions regarding wintertime fishing. I know a lot of you know how much I love to do it, at least when I can do it. Right now we are froze over, so I cannot do any fishing outside of ice fishing at the moment, but I love to fish right up until the time we freeze over, and I love to start fishing as soon as the ice comes off. I'm talking water temperatures that are in the 30s up into the 40s, the coldest time of the year. And no matter where you're at right now in the country, you're going to start experiencing that rapid drop of water temperature into your wintertime months. And there's only a handful of baits, really, in my opinion, that are really very good at catching fish during the wintertime period. I would say the wintertime, more than any other season of the year, uh, ends up canceling out a good percentage of the baits that are on the market. For me, it really does remove a lot of the soft plastics. It removes a lot of the top waters, a lot of your moving baits, that are more along the lines of, say, a spinner bait or a swim jig, versus the summertime period where in the summer you can throw almost any bait and make it work and fish it in a fashion that you want to be fishing it. But in the wintertime period, man, there are just some baits that do not generate strikes. So I want to give to you guys my top wintertime baits. These are the baits that I fall back on year after year to really generate a lot of strikes to the point where you can have some exciting action on the water. And the best part about wintertime fishing is you have the potential at catching the biggest bass in the lake, and they're going to weigh the heaviest they're going to weigh all year long. They're just generally good, healthy fish. So let's dive into that. Before I do, though, I want to remind you I do have a Tackle Warehouse affiliate link. So if you're looking to support my channel, a great way to do that is to make your tackle purchases using one of the links on my video description for you. Once you click on it, you can go ahead and bookmark that as well so that you can use it for future orders. And it's just a great way to support the channel. The little bit of money I make from that comes right back into creating content for all of us so that we all can hopefully become better anglers. All right, so let's go into this in really no order here. I'm just going to dive right into it. So one of my first and absolute go-to baits, this is a Silver Buddy blade bait. This is the half-ounce size. This is just one of those baits that, for whatever reason, generates strikes during the winter time period. Now, first and foremost, it is a heavier bait that stays near the bottom. So it is really good from that standpoint, making bottom contact, allowing the angler to feel what it is that you're fishing. And generally speaking, it's a good bait that generates still some reaction strike from fish that are in their lethargic phases of just kind of sitting on the bottom. If you're a smallmouth angler or a spotted bass angler or a walleye angler, these are absolutely dynamite. They're also really good at fishing for your fish that may be suspended, where you might be throwing, say, a jigging spoon, something along those lines, where you've got a lot of white bass, striped bass, that type of thing. But a silver buddy is just an absolute dynamite bait for me. There's a lot of other good blade baits on the market. I just am very partial to the silver buddy, specifically uh, the older ones if you can find them, but the new ones work every bit as good as well. So that's a number one bait. I always have this tied on. I'm going to be looking for your deep offshore humps. I'm going to be looking for to fish the ends of deep points. If I've got 45-degree rock banks, maybe a channel swing bank, maybe I've got a just a steep break that I want to fish, but I want to make sure I'm fishing and maintaining bottom contact. Your blade baits are going to be an awesome choice for doing that. And one other thing with respect to most of these baits, you got to recognize that the primary forage for the game fish during this time period is going to be other fish species. Generally speaking, you're talking, you're going to have shad die-offs, you're going to have a lot of your other pelagic type species, your smelt, your alewives, your ciscos, things like that become major forage species again because they'll be a little bit higher up in the water column. Bluegills are still going to be a predominant species, but a lot of your other forage species like crayfish and salamanders, things like that, tend to become dormant, and they're not nearly as productive, in my opinion, during the cold water period. So this is another one. This is one that I've been fishing the last couple of years. It's only been out for a couple of years now. The Berkeley Finisher. This is just an awesome bait at generating reaction out of fish that are in a lethargic phase again. It's similar to jerkbait, but it's smaller in profile and it is significantly heavier. So you can fish this much deeper than a jerkbait. You can fish it in the same exact places you fish a jerkbait, but at the same time, if you want to let it get down to the bottom in 20 or 30 feet of water, you can fish it through those areas as well. It's just become a really good go-to for me in any of the bait fish colors that they offer. This is the middle size, the size 7. That's kind of been my go-to, but both the 5 and the 9, the smaller and the larger size, are great baits as well. And again, the cool thing with this, it's been a multi-species bait. Catch a lot of pike on it. You catch a lot of panfish on it. I catch a lot of walleyes on it. Just an absolute killer bait that I don't want to leave home without during the cold water period. Then let's talk jerk baits. Obviously, the jerk bait has been probably over the last 30 years the number one cold water bait. If you were to talk to most anglers, they would say you got to have a jerk bait. This is the Berkeley Stunna, just their regular version. You can get the deeper diving versions, the smaller size jerk baits. You got to have a jerk bait. One of the cool things about at least a suspending jerk bait is you can really let these baits sit in the strike zone for a long period of time. Some of them have a slow sink like the Stunna, some of them have a slow rise. The point is you can keep that bait down in the strike zone, and in that cold water, a lot of times it takes a little longer for that fish to want to commit to it, and you can let these baits sit for up to a minute in the same location. If there's one bait on the market that is tried and tested, it's a jerk bait for cold water fishing. You got to have the sharp hooks. That's one reason I love these Stunnas with that Fusion 19 hook. Just an absolute killer. You gotta have your jerk baits during the cold water period. And I don't think I'm telling anybody anything that's all that new with that. Next up, in my opinion, you gotta have some of your smaller finesse style tungsten football jigs. The reason I say tungsten is, again, you're going to be fishing much deeper generally during this time period. You're going to be really trying to feel those small places of broken rock, the small little rock piles that are on a sand flat, and you just need to be able to tell that differentiation really well, and you can do that with your tungsten heads. This is the Picasso tungsten football jig head. I just love them because they're small. These are small profile baits. I got a 3-inch Berkeley Pit Boss on the back. And this is just a bait that's a killer for all the species of bass out there. And again, I don't know that that's a crazy thing that people aren't doing, because a football jig is really a tried and proven technique for the cold water period. I just think that going with a little bit smaller profile with that tungsten is an absolute key to generating a few extra bites. And then last but not least, you got to have your swim baits. So in this case, this is a little Kitech. It looks like a 3.3. I've got it on the Core Tackle 2-aught tush head. Whether you're throwing a single individual swim bait or maybe you're throwing an umbrella rig, the swim bait's another absolute key bait to have during the cold water period. Generates a lot of strikes during frigid temperatures. And again, it's just one of the best baits at imitating the forage that the bass are primarily feeding on. So whether you're fishing down in Florida or you're up here in the North Country fishing right before the water freezes up, your small swim baits are going to be an absolute dynamite one to be throwing. Big swim baits too, but it's just you got to have a swim bait. It's another really good presentation. It lets you fish similar to a jerk bait, but you can fish top to bottom in the water column depending on the weights that you throw. Biggest takeaways here, guys. You're going to be looking for a lot more of your rock, a lot more of your hard targets, because those are going to hold more heat. You're going to be looking for steeper breaks. A lot of times you're going to be talking about either a deep drop off, or maybe you've got a point that extends out into deep water. And a lot of that is just that deeper water holds a little bit more heat. A lot of your bait fish are going to be relating to that deep water. And that's just where the fish are going to be at this time of year. They're generally not going to be in super shallow water. There's definitely a percentage of the population that will be, especially on your warmer days during the winter months. But a lot of times your deeper water is going to be a lot more consistent of a bite. And these baits are the ones for me that I put to work and have a lot of success on during the cold water period. So let me know in the comment section what are some of your favorite cold water baits, if I didn't mention them here, so that some other anglers may be able to relate to you and put those to work in their area. Otherwise, if you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.